Okay, so today I wanted to do a video about why I video blog. Well, first of all, I read a few books like Why I Write from Albert Camus, the philosopher, and it's very interesting what he exposed there, the idea of creating dangerously and the idea of doing something that other people doesn't do. And that's something that most academics that you will see in YouTube or mainstream media wouldn't do, wouldn't say. Um, Also, they might be experiencing another reality. Also, I read Why I Write of George Orwell, and he has a different view, which is more political, more, let's say, intimate, less philosophical, more about literature. I noticed that both authors um, they talk about ego. Yeah, ego is one of the, let's say, motivations for which you will write. Ego tends to be as well why you want to get some approval from your peers. Whatever is your field, whoever is your family, you want you want to appeal to them because it's about being love and being able to love. Um, so this is again something that we spoke about in another video. So feelings create habits that become the social glue of every single society. And what is happening to me is threatening to that social glue in the way that a new kind of social contract needs to be done, a new kind of rules needs to start to appear. Um, so many people might disagree. A lot of people might think, no, in the past this had happened and should therefore the future should be like this. But maybe that's precisely what people thought before any war campaign. I mean, this piece of time means that the future can be anything. And it doesn't mean that war uh, follows from peace times. Thus, I mean, what I'm experiencing, if I'm right, is a technology that eventually is able to not only create disruption, but order or any kind of stuff. I mean, I leave it to your imagination. But ego is one of the ways in which I could think that I'm video blogging, but really my ego wanted to do another things. I wanted to write. I wanted to create a company. I wanted to earn money. I wanted to have my body in good shape, have sex, in love, have some fun as well. When I was young, I never thought that I would reach a point in which I will feel wise enough to have kids. But nowadays, I think that if you consider that you're able to rise a project as a kid, then you should definitely have kids. Uh, so my ego tells me another thing. My ego doesn't want to do this. Yeah? I see myself push in a corner in which I'm not able to create because every time I try to do an enterprise, every time I try to do um, a book, every time I really, even studying becomes so difficult because I start to have these interferences. And let's say I had no interference when reading this book or many other several books. So I was diagnosed with schizophrenia, as I explained before, but I was feeling that it was coming from a technology, and this technology can be reverse engineered. And you cannot prove that I have schizophrenia. The psychiatrist cannot prove it as well. So the diagnosis was given because they check certain symptoms, but no one can feel the symptoms. No one can really experience what the philosopher called qualia to say that eventually is an illness that has been pinpointed. So schizophrenia can be anything. Schizophrenia is what you do with it. Simple as that. I think, let's say, that diagnosis crushed my ego. Yeah, as well. So I'm doing that, or I'm doing this because I feel that I want to be here or I want to call the attention. No, I rather think that yeah, always I have heard that you just want to call the attention. No, believe me, I don't want to call the attention. Um, maybe I'm not paranoid. Maybe that's the point. Have some understanding of your surroundings, and when you are happy about it, and then you can thrive in your surroundings. But sometimes the environment doesn't reveal to us, and something hidden in the environment is dangerous because then you don't do any kind of calculation around that. Let's say you're walking and you don't see a hole and you are likely to fall there. And is that your fault? Or someone tells you, just come inside this room, it's safe, uh, just follow the signs and you will arrive at the place that you want. And, well, not a room, but an infrastructure or whatever. And you follow the signs and actually you finish in danger. So the environment wasn't revealed. And part of the environment start to be rather applying upon me without knowing it. So then, even believing that I had schizophrenia, because this is what happened. The beginning, I wouldn't believe it because I could explain what was going on. I could explain also what I felt. I also could explain that because felt or it feels like a technology. You follow certain patterns of what the voices say. You also can uh, look at your past and remember where you took that information from when you produced certain words or when you produced certain information online, etc. So it it becomes easy then to reverse engineer what you hear. And then knowing how the neural networks work, I noticed that there was a pattern. I will notice that this thing was learning depending on my triggers. At the beginning, it felt like a kind of uh, like a kind of questionary, not questionary, like okay, it's very interesting. The sensation of always having. Okay, we're gonna go in another video that's related with the DSM-5. But okay, so I was feeling that I was having a kind of interview, yeah, but not one of these interviews in which you apply for a job and then you have the interview. No, this is more like one of those, let's say, kind of situations in which you have to ask questions because you have been detained by the police or kidnapped or whatever. Can't remember the name of that, but okay. The situation is that then I start to notice that voices were learning out of that, are learning out of my triggers, which is very interesting because for learning out of the triggers, then you must have something that treats your triggers. And let's assume this is unconscious. The unconscious works in ways that we don't know. But then I was noticing that I was knowing how the voices were working, and that's not how the unconscious works. Yeah. So then I start to notice that maybe I say as a joke, "Oh, I'm afraid of cactus." Then in the past, maybe I say that, and then I will notice that the voices will try to trigger that. And then I remember that the reason might be because one day made a joke about it. Oh, fine. But then I start to notice more patterns, more patterns, more patterns. Yeah. That simply took me to the conclusion of it. I mean, I could dedicate a whole video of that. But then when I was in paliperidone, paliperidone stops your stream of memories. It means that you cannot be conscious on paliperidone. You cannot be a human because paliperidone is a medication that besides killing you slowly, it stops every single process in your brain that is not one of the fundamentals that keeps you alive. It doesn't stop your heart beating. It doesn't stop certain other stuff that will kill you instantly, but it does stop enough your brain to not allow you to remember what happened just a second before. Yeah. So usually I can talk to you about this because I remember what I was talking just 1 second before. But this medication doesn't allow you to. Then I kind of forgot my security and let's say being sure that it was a technology. Fine. So I kept going. I also read a few books about what is schizophrenia. So I gave my diagnosis for, let's say, fact. Then just keep taking my medication. I always been attached to my medication. And there were days in which I mean, again, I couldn't put too much attention to what was going on exactly, but I noticed on brain debalances, or I thought that the medication wasn't working, or I thought something like that. But every single time I have tried to have a project that is consistent, I see myself having some kind of mental instability. But then it becomes a pattern because I'm not working in anything special. then I could have the stability. So I thought it was stress. Then I start to notice shit. My stress is totally gone. I could do actually a lot of things, stuff, whatever. But every single time that I put my mind in a serious project, I start to have this kind of instability. And sometimes I used to feel like a kind of magnetic field. This magnetic field in the head has been described for another at least 2 or 3 people, maybe 4, because in the mental health system, you talk to people. And I might have encountered several people that have described the same feeling, and this is not a symptom of schizophrenia because although it's a sensation, let's say physical stimulation that will be exactly for everyone, or let's say pain, or I don't know, maybe you see the pattern of people also discovering and thinking the same thing as well. But then let's say, okay, schizophrenia also assumes certain sensations that aren't there. That's the point. Hearing voices that are not dead, are not there, etc., etc., etc. Well, whatever. But came to my mind that after experience the last episode of psychosis, in which I was like, okay, I was very afraid of what was going on. I stopped and I thought, fuck, I'm not gonna go to the hospital because again they're gonna put me on paliperidone, etc., blah blah blah. And it was just after I couldn't accomplish the last works of my semester of national security studies. And that last works that I supposed to do, I had plenty of time. I was given 1 month to finish those assignments. And every time I put myself in it, my brain will shut down. Yeah, it was not fear, it was not anxiety. I tried everything. So, but it's supposed to have been easy because I've done a lot of essays for my not just the masters but also the bachelor. So, should come as another essay, and it should be even easier if I have more time. So it didn't happen. I couldn't finish my essays. Then I start to do a semester of IT. And when I start to think seriously about what I could have done in the IT field, I had a plan. I put my mind to it, and again, I was experiencing a lot of symptoms overwhelmingly. Okay, and then I noticed again a pattern in which I would simply not being able to continue to do something consistently. But if you met me in person, you will find that my mood, my thoughts, my philosophy, my construction of the world, um, my personality, I mean, my values, you will see certain things that are consistent with my personality forever and always. And let's say I don't get angry. I might get, I might have get in trouble before, nothing serious, but I'm not someone who plans revenge. I'm not someone who let's say I try to do my best in every single thing that I do, and I should not be ashamed for maybe fail in one event or something like that. I mean, something that every single human experience, uh, or anything like that. But well, then do I have something to hide? Do I have someone to whom I want to show myself to be worth it? I think my ego was destroyed already. And I think when I do the blogs to say what has happened to me, and also is the easier way in which I could record them. I can only do this because, as I told you before, every time I try to write a book, I cannot. Every time I try to put myself in a business, I cannot. Yeah, I have schizophrenia. I do consider myself having a lavish life. I live in one of these government houses. This is located technically in front of the beach. Yeah, there is the street, and next to it is the beach. And I get $2,000 per month from the insurance because I was working in construction and I was paying my insurance. And it's not so much money today. I mean, I'm actually in depth, but maybe it's more about niche management. But still lavish for me in the sense that I still having everything. Yeah, I'm not suffering for anything material. I'm suffering more about certain things that wouldn't or don't allow my humanity just to flourish. So the reason why I also record this is because this will make sense in the future. It wouldn't make sense for most of the people right now. But in the future, when you have the electronic prescriptions from the doctor, that will make sense. In the future, when you start to receive anti-inflammatories through electromagnetic means, that will make sense. In the future, when, let's say, most of our electronics, instead of using, let's say, the fundamentals of physics that we use now, they will be using mainly quantum fundamentals. Yeah. In the future, this will make sense. And this is one of my predictions. It's not trying to save my ass, but it will make sense because this is how things have been so far. If if during my lifetime, it has not been recognized what has happened to me, but in the future, after they made some propaganda out of that, after it has been exploited by the system itself, then it will mean that in the future it continues going. It will continue going in different ways. Just experimentation, mistakes. I don't know. Can we call this a political police or certain biases? Or, I don't know. I don't know what that will be exactly, but it depends on the production itself. Yeah. And it depends if I could achieve justice in this lifetime. Because most of the movies that you see is people not achieving justice whilst they are alive. Yeah, and that seems to be a strategy. Let's keep this history for the future when it's, let's say, useful. And I don't want to be one of those persons. I don't want to be useful when I wouldn't be living. Yeah, I want to live right now. I want to be a human right now. And people might say, "Ah, but you are going outside, can go to the beach, do some, I don't know, some swimming. You can go to the gym. You can just do whatever you want and go whatever you want." It's not that easy. You are always having these kind of voices. And the reason I'm doing this video is because I woke up with a terrible headache. But these headaches are located. You can, I mean, I can feel it. And this is not the kind of headache that you will have because you have a kind of, well, first of all, I can't remember why I will have a headache because I never experienced headache before coming to Australia. I remember one time when I was living in Colombia that I had a headache, maybe twice. One of them was really serious, because I got intoxicated. The other time I got like intoxicated as well. Um, I would have migraine for other reason. Maybe no, let's say even not after having some beers and so on. I also in Colombia I didn't drink much, and the first years in Australia I didn't drink much as well. But otherwise, I can't remember a headache because I don't know. It was maybe when I got COVID, but in years, it's very strange that I will have a headache. And suddenly I start to experience headaches for no reason. And it was very difficult to pinpoint why. And the other thing, I don't like to take uh, any kind of painkiller. Why? Simply never like it. In Colombia, I used to prefer to my body tell me what is the pain, what is the intensity, so I could take care of what I do, being mindful of the pain. And yeah, instead of taking any kind of painkiller. So I start to notice a lot of changes. And the only time I took painkillers, it was one time I, I broke my ribs and I was given codeine, and codeine is addictive. I well, I noticed that it was addictive because one day I wasn't feeling too much pain, just normal as the ribs had kind of recovered already. And one of my flatmates told me like, ah, you know that is addictive, and I was like, okay, actually I'm taking this because I should be taking it, not because I feel pain. So, oh shit, might be a kind of addiction that this can develop. And I noticed that when I was taking that, eventually it makes a kind of high. It makes you not high, but it does what painkillers do or opioids do, in which you simply cannot think sharply. And so I stopped to take that, but I never took other kind of painkillers because I don't like to take painkillers. Yeah, and I'm good controlling the pain. I have a harsh, let's say, childhood. Not many people know who was close to me, but my father used to hit me a lot, and a lot for a long time. So, if you have someone who has experienced that trauma, makes you very likely to be in this kind of position in which, again, you have to endure a lot of trauma. And that's, let's say, how side ops will work or how people is targeted. yeah, because of their psychological features. So it will make sense to target me because maybe I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was a child. Today, I do believe that ADHD is an overrated and kind of, uh, you know, this this is what I feel when I stopped whilst I am talking to you. Is because there is a kind of thought that is introduced or induced, and it feels that is more like this technology with an AI trying to guide the conversation. But I wanted just making a parenthesis. Then, okay, I was telling you that I was diagnosed with ADHD, and that's a kind of overrated um, diagnosis. I do believe that if you are diagnosed with ADHD and you have never the opportunity to have mindfulness and concentration exercises, if you live in a family in which no one is planning, in which there are no procedures. In my family, there was kind of procedures. We or myself, I was not mindful of them, but I think I I was sent to bed every single day. Yeah, every single day I was going to bed at 6 p.m. The sun, it was still daylight time, but it happened until I was probably 14, 15. And we always will have lunch at the same time with my family, etc. At school, we have a kind of regime. And ADHD comes as maybe also a diagnosis for people that has the mental capacity but not the cognitive tools, which is actually the title of a book that I tried also to do. In cognitive tools that will put you in certain position of being mindful, of planning, etc. So you are not self-aware of certain things if you do not mature cognitively because you have not had the opportunity to be around people who will, let's say, enhance your cognitive tools, your cultural capital, your habits, your awareness, the kind of methods that you will use for reflections. If you don't have the opportunity, let's say, to have uh, a reading that will put you to think or will put you to questioning, then you will have a person who is more distracted, that is more impulsive, a person that is more careless, a person that will not see another context but the immediate one, a person that doesn't plan long term or middle term, not even short term. Most of us are gonna do something and we don't even think twice what we are gonna do, and then we do mistakes. And when it's more or less what happened to me when I was a child, and I was very active, very curious. I will get in trouble, let's say, for several things, and then my parents took me to the psychiatrist. The psychiatrist say, okay, your child has ADHD, but at the same time, I had another kind of, let's say, good superpowers that would prove that I have attention. Let's say for me, it was really easy to read and focus straight. Even it will be easier even if I'm under time pressure, but I will technically read something so fast, so good that I wouldn't need to think to go back to read it, and I will memorize most of the details, and that's why I when I applied to the National University in Colombia, which is, let's say, the university that every single, almost the people wants to go in Colombia too, because uh, technically it has yeah, I mean, it's one of those national universities that simply are well known, yeah. Difficult exam and so on to enter. I passed the exam 3 times. I passed the exam 3 times. The first thing that I want to study was uh, German philology. Philology is just the study of a culture by everything that has been written. Yeah, it's not about the production of knowledge in video, etc. No, it's just everything that is written. And I also passed twice to study electrical engineering in one place. In the other, I always had the first 2 times I had issues like economic issues, and I would, yeah, just miss a procedure to an enrollment, and I couldn't technically enroll. But anyway, the main most of the time was the economic problem. So at the second time, at the third time, I had already a job working as a technician in McDonald's, and I would fix machines whilst doing electrical engineering. I was not the best student. I think also, let's say, the educational system didn't work in my favor, but I was able to concentrate. I do believe nowadays to have any kind of diagnosis puts you in a disadvantage that would allow this kind of technology to justify a future like as the one that is happening to me. So if you are someone that is more likely to be disadvantaged, then you are more likely to fall in this kind of a situation that will even make or create more disadvantage. Yeah. If you were in a position of power, then you are more likely to have advantages that even if you are put in disadvantage, will pull you up, not down. And that's usually one of the problems of the, let's say, the capitalist system. So that's more or less what is explained by Yanis Varoufakis' book, The Poor Suffers What it Must, or something like that, somewhere there. It actually has another, is, and the weak suffers what they must. Yeah, he's the one that is having this, not theory, but probably rhetoric about explaining the current situation of the world, but we are already in a techno-feudalism era because companies have more power than governments at this stage. And government, I know, have a lot of regulations on them, and there are many deals between the companies that generates the needs of a government and companies that simply support politicians, media that support politicians, and these are many, many companies, etc. So, yeah, he puts a theory there. So then, uh, yeah, we're talking about why I do this. This is because I have a lot to say. And there is one book, I can't remember who wrote it, but it's becoming kind of famous. The situation in which as depicted in the movie of Matrix. First of all, man, if you believe that this is the Matrix, it's not like the movie. The movie is actually part of the Matrix, so you have to be aware of that. Second, yeah, there is a part in the movie in which Neo tries to scream and cannot because his lips are totally stick on. He opens or he tried to open his mouth, but yeah, he doesn't even have a mouth. So that's coming from another book, and yeah, the possibility to not being hurt. We all need to be hurt. We are humans, but this technology allows to not be hurt. This technology allows to not communicate yourself. If I put this in a digital format, there is likely that people will watch it in the future, and it's very likely that maybe Google will shadow ban it, but it's likely that another company might not do it. It's likely that it might be resting somewhere in in the in the web, and it makes also likely the possibility for other people to understand their reality. Because I could go to the street. I don't know if this is applying to another people as it is applying to me at the same time. But let's say in the worst case scenario, it's applied to everyone. In the best case scenario, it's applied only to me. And if that's real, then what is happening to me is that they are subtracting my thoughts. They are subtracting information for which they will train models. They are subtracting information or try to create information for which I will maybe have an interaction that will be presented as something that is not me, then changing the perception of another person of myself, or this technology can be applied in certain ways that, well, I cannot imagine. I could get creative with it, especially if you have more people being affected. But let's say, well, another thing that is happening is that they could inflammate and disinflammate parts of the body, of your skin, technically in any biological tissue. Well, not bones, but or maybe, but soft tissue especially. Just you could feel it. For no reason, things get like very inflamed. Sometimes it feels that they are threatening you because the voices correlate with what you feel. It can be scary. It can be scary to feel your eyeballs nerves, to feel scary to feel your skin being swallowed. It could feel scary, yeah, to feel every single part of your nervous system. It feels really scary when they apply certain electrical current that is extremely painful. I mean, it's electroshocks direct to the nervous system. I mean, it makes you have a sudden reaction so fast that because the pain is so intense. Sometimes, I think in a couple of times I have screamed because technically they can also apply this to muscles that get tension. But this is not a muscle that is being pulling, it's more an interaction that happens between the technology and the environment that includes yourself. Um, Sometimes I feel the organs inside me just being like bloated, doesn't feel like when you are full because you have eaten. No, it feels like the tissue is just extend, inflamed, and then release. And imagine you are breathing, but what makes inflate the lungs is actually happening in your, I don't know, in your kidneys, in your legs, in your arms, in your liver, in your stomach. It's something called, well, one is ontogenetics, and the other one is called magnetogenetics. This will be common in the future, but again, have to record this because this might be useful in the future. I have to record this because I'm not being heard. Try to call the security services. Once, sometimes they ask you, have you been in the mental health hospital? And I say yes. Then they treat you as crazy because that's part of the strategy. I mean, if you can recreate anything that the nervous system does, then it means that you can recreate any kind of mental illness as well. And then, yeah, all your nervous system can be hijacked, and that includes, yeah, concentration, speech, whatever you do, sleep, and yeah, any endeavor that you want to do. But again, the question comes like, why me? I haven't done anything wrong. And let's say I did something wrong. Why I have not been taken to court? But assume it's something related with something that, let's say I did something wrong that cannot be taken to court. Because in Australia, sometimes, just recently, if you are taken to court on, on and there is something that needs to be spoken related to national security grounds, you will not have a public open court, but you will have a closed doors hearing. Then let's assume I did something like that, but that will be, or why I'm not had been taken yet to a closed doors court. But assume this, they might have thought that I did something wrong, that national security grounds cannot be disclosed, and we, let's say they just, they will think something like, we are suspicious of him. Then we gonna try to keep him in check just to see if we want to prove something. The first thing that come to my mind in that theory is my relationship with the people in Colombia of the Youth Communist Party. But I met them probably 3, 4 times, five at the most, not many times. If I met them, I mean, we didn't, I could count the hours of interaction, truly. But what concerned me most is that I met even, yeah, I met a commander of the ex-commander of the a kind of extreme right group in Colombia because I work with him. I work in a toys store, and in that toy store, yeah, I was a teenager. I was probably 16 or 17, and this person was working there as like a security guard, and he used to have one of those bracelets that um, prisoners that are under supervision has. And he used to work with the bracelet, and we became friends. He was a very kind person, and yeah, he was an ex-soldier. Sometimes he will be kind of not deployed by the military, but rather he will be working even overseas. And he also worked in Colombia for people who was doing criminal things, and then he finished in Yale, and well, came up to be that he was not dangerous, I do believe. Whatever happened to him, that he was released with the condition that he has to wear this bracelet. And he explained me a lot of things that I'm simply not telling you here, but then that could be the possibility. Oh, maybe this guy is extreme right. Yeah, I don't know. Paramilitary of Colombia, and I don't know. Oh, the other theory, oh, maybe this guy is a spy because he has met a lot of interesting people. Um, okay, let's assume they have the right to be suspicious, but what doesn't make sense is that if they are suspicious, they start to use this technology for a while. And as far as I had been able to track, this comes from at least 2004. I'm not sure from how far back I will be able to discover that this they use. I mean, obviously, I myself even have seen improvements of this technology, refinements, yeah, related with maybe AI advances. But the situation is that let's assume someone is suspicious of me, then what will happen is that they have had a lot of time to confirm or deny that suspicions. And I've been pushed, and I've been stopping my life, and I've been dying. Because as I explained in the other video, when you take antipsychotics, you live less. Takes out of your life between 10 to 20 years average. And the first thing that they tell you is that you are more likely to have a heart attack and so on. Man, I've been doing a lot of exercise. Today I was cycling and whatever, but you know, this technology can cause a heart attack. Does that make people paranoid? People should not be paranoid because I don't think this is done in a malicious way for everyone and so on. But I think there are also procedures because otherwise I would have been killed by now. Yeah, I mean, but for especially for a few months back, I have been asking myself why I have not been killed. There is also the possibility that, well, if we just, I mean, we have AI, and if this technology works, then they could track whatever information is going in the internet, whatever information I produce, and try to have an outcome. Then we start to talk about cybernetics, but cybernetics is a special field because it's something that I won't be able to explain in that video. Let's have a random quote. Okay, this is okay. So this guy is an important person, Norbert Wiener. Okay, that's a genius that has been hidden. Movies of him will come in the future because he will create the future. So he was talking about the idea of progress that doesn't have any clash with any religion. Not the Catholic, not the Protestant, not the Jews, not the kings of the earth, the Calvinism, not God, not related with the Hebrew. I mean, progress is not hindered by, well, most religions, at least the ones that I just named. And then he says, to secure this progress, no virtues on earth, no moral righteousness might be expected to be of the slightest avail. To secure this, no virtues on earth, no moral righteousness might be expected to be of the slightest avail. It says no moral righteousness, no virtue. You know, progress has a problem. It doesn't matter what you do, even it doesn't matter if it's technically possible, as Erich Brown says, then it will be done. Sometimes we do things not because we need them, but we create things because it's possible to do it. Let's say we're gonna do something that could kill humanity by pressing a button. We do it because it's technically possible. Right now, let's say with AI, it seems that the more data you collect, the more you train these AI models, the more you try to do experiments with consciousness, the more you try to achieve what they call artificial general intelligence, the more powerful the computers are, the chips, the better because it's an ideology, it's a belief. Fundamentally, this is a belief. It's the belief that progress is always to advance technology without regard, because it's progress. Going forward, we call this sometimes the boundaries of science, of knowledge, and to push them further is seen as something virtuous, righteous. So we have, yeah, this situation. And if this happened to me, then how else can I put it outside? If, let's say, you could see that I go out, I might be able to meet people, but people come and go really fast. And I wonder why, because I see another patterns, yeah? Might be related with the destruction of internet as we know it. Yeah, some people talk about a new kinds of internet, not just like the Web3, but precisely the complaints of what makes the Web3 something special. But that might be related with another video. And if I'm not able to meet new people, yeah, I'm experiencing as well this called gun stalking, which I can describe in many theories. But the first one is that the things that you hear might not be just only created, I mean, perceived in your brain, because maybe they are being in your brain. And I'm not talking about one laser. I'm talking about several transmitters that will collide in your brain, whether because you have the special nanoreceptor or the special modifying organism or the special place in space to which these waves were being. Then it's not just about hearing things that you're sure comes from your brain. Some stuff comes from outside your brain because you can feel your ears. You can feel the vibration in your ears. And it might be related with the ions trap of the electromagnetic theory of, called the pulse ions trap. It means that you contain an electromagnetic field, and this is technically the same principle for which fusion reactors will work. You contain the energy, the energy is not expanding, but you contain it, and it is released in a controlled manner for the whole time. Yeah. So you create technically a kind of bottle that is magnetic. And if you apply this to low, low, let's say, intensity electromagnetic waves, and you beam form that, you do the beam forming, which is another, let's say, well, it's another principle, but you are able to create this kind of trap in which you contain atoms using electromagnetic waves. You could make them vibrate, and they will use the air. They will vibrate in the air because one of the most precise things that you could use in science is electromagnetic waves. Super precise. It's not like taking a tape measure. Is something amazing because you could count electron by electron and then be precise of those magnetic fields. Then you contain that sort of air because you simply ionize the air, and then you create a field that then will resonate depending on the intensity. You could create sound in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, that's technically possible. As long as there is air, it's possible. So, yeah, I have a lot of things to say, but I don't want to make these videos too long. So, okay, one more video up. And if you want to hear more about this, if this is interesting to you, just write something down. I will definitely pay you attention because at least the first video was watched by 20 something people. I have uploaded 2 videos, I know 4 videos, and the last one hasn't had any views. So, okay, let's try to get prolific in this. At some stage, someone will get interested in this. Okay, love you all, and peace.